Yesterday, we started the chapter on transformations. What was the transformation we talked about yesterday? Reflections, right? Reflection is when you are doing a mirror image or you're flipping it over a line of reflection. Okay? We also talked about a rigid motion. What is a rigid motion? What does it preserve? Stays the same size and it stays the same shape. Okay? Reflection is a rigid motion. This one today, we're talking about translations. This is also a rigid motion. Okay? So I started you off. I wanted you to move that picture left 2 and down 1. So what did you do? What'd you move?
All the points.
Every single point has to move the same amount. Okay? So it doesn't matter what point you start at. No. Okay? As long as you do the same thing to all the points. Okay? So I'm going to start at D, left 2, down 1. What do I label my new point? D prime. D prime. So I'm going to do the same pattern, left 2, down 1 for each point. Okay? And then after you have all your points, you're going to make your new picture. Again, it should be a rigid motion, meaning it should be the same shape and the same size. Is that true here?
Yeah.
Yes. What do you notice about the picture from the pre-image to the image? It just moved a little bit, right? Translations, all that's happening is you're moving it. I'm going to call it sliding it across the graph. It's not turning. It's not flipping. It's not doing anything. Thank you. It's just moving on the graph. Does that make sense? So translations, all we're doing is moving in different directions. Okay? Mathematically, we're going to talk about writing rules. Okay? We're going to talk about writing them in different forms. Okay? The form that we're going to focus the most on is this form. I want everyone to write this down. This form starts out with my pre-image, and we don't know really anything about the pre-image. My pre-image is just my original x, y values. Okay? So, my pre-image, and then we're going to draw an arrow. That signifies a translation. Okay? That arrow means we're translating, and then we're going to write our mathematical equation on this side. So, we said the x is moving left 2. How can I write that mathematically? Give you a hint. It's minus 2 or plus 2? It is minus. Since think of a number line, we're going left 2, we're going towards the negatives. Okay, so x minus 2, and then down 1, y minus 1. Yep. Left and right is always going to be your x value. Up and down is always going to be your y value. Yep. And then this new part that we got, that is your image. Okay. Now, you don't need to write pre-image and image and all of that when you write the rules. Okay, I'm just doing this to explain to you what's what. Okay, and again, this arrow just means translate. Okay, so that rule is true for every point that we moved. Okay, every time you perform a translation, it's going to stay true the whole time. Okay, I want to do another example quick. If I did right 3 and down 4. I want you to write the mathematical rule for that. What would I write first? I need x, y. I always need that original first. My original x, y, and then translated. What do I write next? Yep, why is it plus this time? Because we're going right. And then down 4 is y minus 4. Okay? On this curriculum, you will see this form. You may see this form in your book. Okay, let's break it down and talk about it. In your notes, it's written more like this. Okay, yesterday we had like our x-axis. That meant reflect over the x-axis. Okay, what do you think this T means? Translate, and then those numbers, that's your x and your y. That's how your x and y are moving. Okay. So it's a positive 6 in the x, so what direction are we moving? Yep, right 6. And what about the minus 7? Down 7. Yep, the x is always going to be left or right, depending on if it's positive or negative. The y is always going to be up and down, depending on positive or negative. Okay, so whenever it gives you this, think of that as the xy coordinate. That's what's happening to it. Okay, looking at this one, it's kind of nice when they give it to you in words, right? It just tells you exactly what's happening and you don't have to do any configuring to math, okay? I want to write this in both forms. I want to write let's write it in that form first. T, what's happening to my x value? What value should I put there? Positive or negative 11? Positive 11. And then what's my y value? Positive 2. Good. Just for practice, I want to practice writing it in the other form. Okay, meaning this form. Here's my original xy. We're translating. What do I write for the x value? Yep, x plus 11 and y plus 2. Good. Awesome. Look at number 2. Similar to this example, I want to talk about this one first. Okay? Remember in chapter 1 we talked about arithmetic and geometric. Thank you. Remember those two terms? What does arithmetic mean? Say it louder. Numbers. What does geometric mean? Shapes, pictures. Okay? Do you agree a graph is a picture? Okay? So we're going to talk about the arithmetic way to solve and the geometric. Okay? Later on, you can pick which one you want to do. Okay? And I already know which one you're going to pick. Okay? First, when you're given a graph, we have to figure out which one is the pre-image and which one's the image. Okay? How do we tell the difference? What do you mean? Oh, the prime symbol, right? Is the prime the new or the old? Prime is the new. Remember I talked about Roman numerals? This is my new image. This is my original. Okay, does everyone understand how I told the difference between those? Okay, now we need to see how we went from the pre-image to the image. Okay, so geometrically, doesn't matter what point I look at. Nope, I'm just going to pick S because it kind of already has it outlined for us. So if I'm writing my rule, I have my original XY is being translated. How much are we moving left or right? 1 left. How would I write that here? X minus 1, and then what would I write for the Y? Y minus 4. Yep, because we went left 1 and we went down 4. Okay, good. If I wrote it in, so this is the main form. What if I wrote it in this form? What would I write in those brackets? -1, -4. Perfect. Okay, those two things mean the same thing. Okay, I will always tell you which one I want it to be in. Okay, so that's geometrically. Geometrically, you were given the picture and you just counted to figure out what your rule is. Okay, let's talk about if you were only given the 2 points. So my original S is -5, 6. My new S is -6, 2. Does anyone have an idea of how I can figure that out if I wasn't given the picture? How could I figure out how it got translated?
X2 minus X1.
It is. Yep, it's not over. We're just going to do them separately. So how we're going to figure it out is we need to know how it got from the pre-image to the image. Doing it mathematically with our points, we're going to think backwards. How do we go from our new back to our old? Okay. When you think of the term backwards, do you think of addition or subtraction? Subtraction. So we're going to do new minus the old. Okay, our x's and our y's. So here's my x values, here's my y values. If I subtract new minus old, first of all, how do I know what's new and what's old?
Oh, the prime.
Prime is
New.
new. Prime is new. So I'm going to do new, -6, minus old, -5. What happens to two negatives? Positive, -6 plus 5, -1. What do you notice here? Or here? It's the same thing, right? So if I do the same thing for the y's, what am I subtracting for the y's?
6 minus 2.
Careful, we want to do new minus old. So it'd be 2 minus 6, which is -4. Notice again, we have those same values. Okay? So when you're doing this one, I want this rule and I want this rule. First, we have to figure out which point we start at. Am I going to start at the point on the left or the point on the right? Point on the left because that's my original, okay? So I want to figure out my x's first. How much do I move right or left? What direction am I moving? Right. How many? 5. So if I went right 5, how can I write that? X plus 5, yep. And then do I go up or down next? Up, how many? 2. How do I write that? Y plus 2. When I put it in this form, what are my X and Y numbers? 5 and 2. Yep. If this was a minus 5, what would I put here? Negative 5. Yep. What do you notice about example 3, A and B?
Oh, those two steps.
There's 2. One's in word form, one's in the form that we're used to, okay? What you noticed first about these is that there's more than one translation going on, okay? We're going to go from 2 translations, we're going to make it 1 translation, okay? So when it's in words, let's talk about what it says for that first one. The first one, make sure we write this down. First one says right 1, and it also says down 1. That's just from the first one. What does the second one tell me? Right
Right 3.
3,
2 down.
down 2. Yep. So that's the 2 translations it gave me. I want to make it 1 translation, put them together. So a way you can think about this is here it tells me right, I'm going to start at 0. Right 1, and then this tells me
Right 3.
right 3 more. So how many in total did we go? Right 4. So right 4. For the Y's, we went down 1, and then we went down 2 more. How many did we go down? 3. Okay, now you could write a rule for this. This is what I'm going to tell you. Okay, since we started in words, since our problem was given to us in words, I want you to write your answer in words. Does that make sense? Okay, so since we started in words, I want to write it in words. Okay, what about B? It's your B. What about B? Do you still agree there's 2 transformations happening? Yes. Okay. This little symbol in here, that little circle, that doesn't mean multiply. That means and. That little circle in there means and. So this translation and this translation happened at the same time. Okay. Let's look at the X value first. What does minus 4 mean? Left 4. What does minus 2 mean? Left 2. So how many in total did we go? Left 6. And since we started in this form, I want to stay in that form. So what should I write for my X value? Negative 6. Yep. Do the same thing for the Y's. What does 0 mean? Didn't move. Okay. What does this 5 mean? Up 5. What should I write for my new Y value? 5. What do you notice? How did we get from these 2 to this? We just added the values, right? That's what you can do. Negative 4 plus negative 2 is negative 6. 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, so it does work that way. Okay? When you're looking at these, remember this is in the form of X and Y. Okay, on that first one, what is it telling me for the X value?
Oh, left 4.
Left 4. What's the Y value telling me?
Down 2.
Down 2. Yep. And if you put 4 left, 2 down, that's fine too. It means the same thing. Okay. What about number 6?
5 right.
5 right and 3 down. Yep. On number 7, I want you to write a rule for that translation. Write a rule. What do you have to make sure first? You know which one's the original. Okay, just so we're all on the same page, which one's the original, left or right? Left. Yep. We already figured out which one was the original. Okay. Whether you wrote this rule or this rule, you should still get the same thing. Okay. Doesn't matter what point I pick to go from. No. Okay. I could pick A, Tatum could pick B, Victor could pick C, and Wyatt could pick D. Doesn't matter. We should all get the same answer. Okay. So I'm just going to pick B. How much did we move to the right? 7. How do I write that in my top rule up here? X plus 7. Down here, I should just put 7. Yep. How much did we move down? 3. So that should be Y minus 3. What do I put in the bottom one? Negative 3. Yep. Awesome. 2 more. I want you to combine 8 and 9. So you start with 2 translations. I want you to combine them into 1. All right. What's the trick on these ones? You just add them together, right? Add up the x's and the y's. So 7 plus a negative 3. 4. 8 plus a negative 4. 4. And since we started in this form, I want to write my answer in that form. Okay, and then number 9, 0 plus 4. 4. 3 plus 6. 9. Awesome.